Okay, I will call the Southbury Board of Selectmen regular meeting to order July 16th, 2020 at 7 PM. And if we can, in room 205, if we can have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I thought planning was coming for the pedestrian study. I don't know what happened. Okay, so anyway, that was going to be the presentation on the pedestrian study. I'll just brief you and we'll get them back. As you know, there was a pedestrian study was done under Dolores by Mylona McBroom, and through a number of series of events and COVID. Now I said to Kathy, she's working here, she's got her feet on the ground, she knows where she is, that we need to talk about the pedestrian study and what we can do to make downtown more walkable, Main Street. So she wanted to give a presentation to the board for that. So we will look forward to that. And I apologize for.
I was on the planning commission call when they talked about that.
Yeah, well, these things, it happens. It's not the end of the world here. So we'll look for that. Public comments, limited to 2 minutes. If anybody cares to make public comment, please come forward and give your name and where you live, and we'll hear public comments. Hearing no public comments, only one person in the audience. And hearing no public comments, and we'll move on from there. Announcements and correspondence you have in front of you. Denise Stewart exhibit online. You know, with COVID, we're trying to keep art and culture going in the library, and you have it in your packet. Reports from the departments you have. Next is consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you for not having to do a roll call on that now. Bids and procurements. On the turf management. Can we get a motion to approve the turf management resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve it as written.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And it carries. Personal property audit. That's a company we've always been using. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It carries. Minutes. Minutes of June 18th, June 22nd, June 30th, July 2nd. Would it be okay if we had a motion to approve all 4 minutes? Is that okay? Can I have that motion?
I'll make the motion to approve all 4 minutes as written.
Can I have a second? Mike? Thank you, Mike. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, unfinished business, this time we don't have any. On the new business, we have Region 15, there is a vacancy. We talked in the office, and then Selectman Bucksbaum called also, kind of wondered what I thought, and I said, I think the last time we did this, we had put out a press release and whatnot that we're looking for candidates for both unaffiliated, Democrat and Republican, anybody, citizens, to bring their resumes to us and look at it from like we did before, and we did pretty well with the last time we did that. So if that's okay with the board, that's what I will try to get out, if not, probably not tomorrow, but probably Monday. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the process was great, it worked so collaboratively last time, and we picked a great, great representative. I would say we have a moment in time now to try to get that done quicker, so, because they don't meet again until September 15th, something like that, usually their first meeting of the year, so it'd be great if we could fill it with great.
Yeah, it worked really well. Jason, you,
No, I was going to say, I thought it was a really good process last time, and we ended up with a lot of great candidates. We met with all of them, and I thought we ended up with a good result, so I think it's the way to go.
okay, so if we can make a note for either, for me to get that done no later than Monday, get that out and start the process. Okay, first Selectmen's report.
Jeff, before you move on, I have additional new business.
I'm sorry?
I have additional new business. There's been a resignation on the EMS committee, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve Sean Bassetto as an alternate to a regular member.
All right, so what we need to do, we need to add to, so you'd like to add to new business.
I'd like to add to new business the appointment.
Is your speaker on?
It's on.
Okay.
What's gonna be on tonight?
They have a meeting at the end of the month, so I'd like to,
Okay, it is ready to go for the next meeting, but I can pull up that, I think there's a resolution for it if you want.
that would be great.
Are we required to have a resolution to move people up from alternate to regular?
Yes.
Yeah. So I
No,
think
I know,
we'll
we have to do it,
wait
but-
till the next meeting?
Well, we have the resolution, it sounds like, so we can just vote on the resolution.
Okay, so
Well, first, let's add it to the agenda.
Emily Harrison, Selectman Harrison is making a motion to add to new business the appointment to full.
It's not in the folder, I'm sorry.
You don't have it,
I don't know
so
which-
we can't do it tonight.
You can do it tonight, I just don't have it written.
Yeah, it's in the paperwork for the next meeting. So we can procedurally,
Yeah, I understand. We can seat him as an alternate. It just,
well, they would seat him as a regular member at the next meeting.
They can seat him,
They can seat
yes.
him procedurally.
So let them seat him procedurally and we'll do the, is that okay?
that's fine.
Okay,
I'd like to withdraw the motion.
thank you. All right, first Selectmen's report. We are continuing to do our due diligence, let me start on the other side. I want to thank the committee who worked on and interviewed the people for the EMD position. Jason was part of that. I will be doing the final interviewing along with our HR specialist, and I hope to have a recommendation at the next meeting for that position. The IT director's position will close on Friday. So far, we have 31 applications, and it looks very promising, so we're encouraged. There has been a number of meetings and demonstrations, and some more to come on the online permitting. As you know, we've talked about that, and something I really want to get done. I'm encouraged about what I'm hearing this morning. Many of the department heads from Town Hall went to Woodbury to meet with the building department in Woodbury to see and discuss the system. I want to thank Barbara Perkins, the first selectman of Woodbury, for having their building department take the time to host and demonstrate their online system. As always, our friendship and helpful relationships with surrounding towns is greatly appreciated, and they were very good, and I'm very encouraged. So we have some more demos coming. Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, I had breakfast with Kevin a couple weeks ago outside at Leo's, right when we were allowed to start sitting outside, so we both jumped on the opportunity, and he's really excited about
Yeah.
the demos.
I think this will help, help with efficiencies in many departments. We are continuing to do our due diligence at the Edgewood. We have got the executed signed copy of the gracious extension granted by the owner of Edgewood, and would like to publicly thank them again for that, and we are doing our other due diligence. I would like to mention there was a concern expressed to me, and I think other selectmen have probably heard about our outlying parks. that are out there. And it's not just our park, there's also state parks that are feeling this impact. Please know that we are continuing to have our police monitor the parking areas, check for no overnight parking or camping. We are patrolling. The police are also doing routine checks of our other parks, Settlers, Ballantyne, and the others. They're checking them at night. There have been vehicles, someone asked me, and there have been vehicles towed down on Little York. There's tow-away zone. And tickets have been given. I've been going down there over the holiday weekend a couple times, and last weekend encouraging people to please take their trash with them. Some of the people in the Berkshires seem a little happier with River Road, the way it's been done. So we're working, and it's gonna be continue to evolve how best we can handle it. There's been a lot of pressure from other areas being shut down up further on First Light's property, and that's part of what's impacting us in different areas. Mike?
I just wanted to say to the point on River Road Park, you and I had shared an email exchange probably a month ago, I guess when the summer really was starting to heat up. And I've gotten emails and seen messages from folks really saying, to say thank you, so thank you. Because they've said the police have been by there and they've been ticketing, and Public Works, I think, came by and maybe helped clean up some trash up top on our part of it. So they're really, I think they understand it's a complex issue for the First Light, and they're appreciative. So thank you for jumping on that.
Yeah. Alls we ask is, even if you're not from town, just please take your trash with you, and we can all make this work. Okay. Good news, we hope to have the library open on Wednesday. They'll be installing some more shields that have come in and some other things we need for protection of the public and our employees, and probably get our acting emergency management director to take a look at it on Monday. And then protocols will be in place, and because the material is on back order. I've gotten some calls about other libraries being open, but as it was explained to me by our Shirley Thorson, they're like small libraries, easy to manage. Medium-sized libraries are not open, nor are large libraries. So I think we'll be, we're doing the correct thing, doing the correct steps. Stuff has been back ordered. We have more things, so we should be good on Wednesday. I've been getting pressure from my friends calling me, and we will continue to get that done. You also know that there's some talk about East Hill Road, and the sight lines. Many people have been contacting us. We are still working on the sightline improvements, including meeting with, we're getting utility companies to come in, and part of the problem is the utilities are so out to the road that if they can get moved, I'm looking for a permanent, correct sightline improvement to make it right. That way, instead of, it should be fixed for the next 100 years and make it right. So we're still moving with that. And just for everybody to know, again, public hearing for the fuel tanks is scheduled for July 29th. All right, anything else of me? Can we have reports from liaisons? George?
I'm gonna take this off, so I'm choking and talking.
It's tough to talk.
IT steering, we had a meeting last night. I haven't had a face-to-face meeting in quite some time. It was nice. Ray Mather, as we know, he actually has sold his home, and he is hoping to continue working with us until the end of September, which would give us perhaps a month of transition time where he can work with his replacement, and that would assume we can bring a replacement on by the end of August, which is kind of the target. Jeff said we have, 31 resumes now. That's pretty impressive. We only released it
I like to think everybody wants to live or work in Southbury.
Well, it's the benefits, you know, it's like incredible benefits you get. So that's kind of the plan before Ray rides off into the sunset. With Edgewood, we released the pro forma P&L on the 24th of June. It's been posted on the town website. We do have a governance proposal, and I would emphasize that it's a proposal only. It would have to be approved by this board, but it's the best work we could come up with as a group. And I would want to thank Jason personally for his time in helping to shape that document. He spent a fair amount of time working with the task force to make it what it is, and I want to thank him again for that. We did complete the pool inspection. I don't remember the date of that, but it was a few weeks ago. Michael Fortuna gave us his report, and he only charged us about half. He was going to charge $3,000, that was his quote, and he only charged us $1,500. And because it was an easy inspection, things were in pretty good shape. Everything was laid out well. The pool control room was easy to figure out and understand. And he made a point that most private pools aren't like that, so he was very nice about it. I said, well, I'm not going to charge you the full board. We do have the report, and I think the board has seen it. We just haven't released it to the website and the public yet. I don't know. We're just slow getting this stuff out. Apologize for that. Building reinspection was also completed. The same inspector that did the initial review did this reinspection. Basically, he used his inspection report as a punch list, so he just took the items that were noted in his initial report, went through them like a punch list, and he said everything was fixed except for possibly one leaky gutter, and he was reluctant to mention that because he really couldn't get up to see the leaky gutter. Apparently the outside wall that was stained by the leak has been cleaned, but he thought the gutter might still be leaking. And he did mention also that the water heaters inside the building, I'm not talking about the pool heaters for the pool itself, those were replaced, but the water heaters inside the building he thinks will have to be replaced in a couple of years. Again, we'll hopefully release that soon. The owners have not agreed to replace the water heaters, and we haven't asked them to. One question that keeps coming up related to the Edgewood project is the cost to close or demolish Ballantyne. That question keeps popping up in public forums. I'd like to take a minute to address it again here, although we have covered it in some past public meetings that we've had online. The Ballantyne site, as it is now, is safely fenced in. We don't have to incur any additional costs to shut it down. For example, we shut it down every winter and basically lock it up, shut it down, it's fenced, and it's considered safe. So if we were to shut down the Ballantyne pool for an extended period, it would just be like a long winter, you know, it wouldn't be opened again perhaps. You don't have to demolish anything or do anything with the facility if you shut it down. If you were to demolish the site, we have cost estimates ranging between $50,000 and $100,000. I think $80,000 is what Hugh Sullivan estimated. So if you were to just completely demolish the pool house and the pool, that's about what it would cost. And another point I would like to make is that the cost to demolish or do whatever you're going to do with Ballantyne would be incurred no matter what happened with Edgewood. If we acquire Edgewood or don't acquire Edgewood, at some point you're still going to be faced with the same decision of what are we going to do with Ballantyne. If it fails finally and we decide not to repair it, then you're faced with the same question. And that's the reason why the task force did not include any of the costs related to Ballantyne in the Edgewood proposal. Another issue that I see come up is the question of why we use estimates versus bids. It keeps popping up in public forums, and there's a very good reason why that's done. And the reason is simply that to obtain formal bids, you have to generate a full set of design documents. And generating those documents takes time and it takes money. It's a multidisciplinary engineering exercise. It would take months, 6 months maybe, to really do it right. And Hugh Sullivan has estimated for a Ballantine pool replacement project, that cost would be about $280,000 to do, just to get the sufficient documents you would need to go out to get formal bids. Another concern is we don't really know what plan we would want to implement for Ballantine. I mean, what design would you want to go with? I mean, we went through some of that with Weston and Sampson. I wasn't part of that group, but there were numerous competing plans. Some were more expensive than others. So you'd have to go through that process first. That might take a few months. Then you'd have to hire a design firm like a Hugh Sullivan or a Michael Fortuna and his group, and then they would create the drawings. Then you could get formal bids. No qualified or intelligent builder or architect is going to give you a quote on something that doesn't have design documents. It just isn't going to happen. And that's the reason why we use estimates. And I would just review that the three estimates we have average out to 4.1 million. And those three estimates were vetted by two additional pool architects, reputable people, Ted Wallover from Pennsylvania and Michael Fortuna, who perhaps is the leading pool architect in the Northeast, certainly in Connecticut. He does most of the big pool projects around this area. And they concur that the 4.1 million is a very reasonable number for a project of that magnitude. I would throw in also, these pool projects are expensive, and by the time you get through all this work and time and planning, I think it's going to be $4.5 million by the time you get to it. Mobile telecom, I'll jump to that. Joe Ruggiero has done a heck of a lot of work on this, and he's got a working test rig that he's starting to use. And what he does is drives it around in his car, and it's got 4 phones in it, and one phone set up for each of the 4 major cell service providers. And the rig gathers data automatically, and he can plot it into a Google Earth map. So he's actually starting to do that. We're getting maps of coverage, and he's finding some dead spots. He's definitely finding some dead spots. Kettletown Road has a few. The Purchase has some big ones up, especially near the area that was supposed to have a cell tower put in years ago and never got put in. So that's where you have some major dead spots. He would like to present this at an upcoming board meeting, maybe not the next meeting, but he'll be ready sometime in August, I think. He'd like to come in and show you what he's doing, if that's okay. And road study, I have nothing new. The radio refresh project is going on. We're still waiting for estimates from Norcom. Jeff, you met the Woodbury Fire Chief, and apparently they upgraded their system from analog to digital through Norcom, and they reported no problems. I guess you're the one who said that to me, so, or somebody did. And Chris Grillo was following up with that. So that's a bit of good news, because Woodbury essentially did the same thing we're talking about doing, and with the same company that we're talking about doing it with, and it seemed to go well. Tax abatement, there's nothing new to report, although I get emails from the Board of Finance wanting to get a status update on that. Strategic Planning Commission, we did have a meeting on July 9th, I think it was, just a few days ago. And Chuck Jones has resigned from the Strategic Planning Commission. He's moving out of town. So they are now down by 2 members, and John Monteleone is requesting that we put out a call to look for new people. So I think we should do that in the next few weeks, put out just like we're doing for the EMS committee. Frank Pauza is currently an alternate. We'd like to move him up to being a regular member. That would be the same sort of process that Emily described for Sean Bastido on the EMS committee. Last thing I'll mention is the SPC is putting together an affordable housing plan. They've been trying to, I shouldn't say they're putting together a plan, they're putting together a recommendation to have a plan be written. And they're putting off a presentation on that pending some additional research. So that's it for me, thanks.
Okay, Selectman Betty.
Before you do that, I just had a question on the tax abatement stuff. I just noticed when I looked at the Board of Finance materials for their last meeting that they had some resolution on that as part of their materials. Did they pass that? Is there anything coming back to us on that, or?
I think they just want us to move it along.
Yeah, number one,
I
we
wasn't
have,
sure what the status was, whether
Yeah,
we needed to be involved or do
so
anything at our level.
we voted to move it along. We have to, when the new assessment, when they reassess their, according to our tax assessor, you cannot pick out any one group to reassess. When we reassess, there can be a change in the PA 490 excess open space amount of value can be adjusted at that time, and it's really up kind of basically a recommendation by the Board of Selectmen. And when that gets, as you know, we're in between, Mike is retiring, and I do expect that will be a recommendation of, we suggest that it would be this. There's it's following kind of like what Woodbury has for an amount, and I think, call me out, but I think it's like Roxbury or whatever. So the assessment would change. The PA 490 is currently grandfathered. The Plan of Conservation and Development would need to, we can vote to change, I don't think, do we have to open up the POCD in order to change the excess open space from what it is? If you want to change it from that to twice that much or whatever it is, you have to open it. And
They are getting
It's
ready.
next year, isn't it?
Right, she's getting ready. In fact,
so Planning Commission said we're not opening it up.
Right, and Kathy just was down talking to us about writing an RFP and how to go about doing that, so.
One of the reasons we brought,
Process.
we were encouraged with Kathy was she had done a Plan of Conservation and Development. She just did one coming out of New Milford, so we knew this was coming up. So we're getting ready for the RFP to go out to open up the Plan of Conservation and Development. And Planning Commission was like, we had too much other stuff going on. It's too close to when we're going to do this. And they said no. So the Planning Commission, we can't tell, Board of Finance cannot tell the Planning Commission when to open that up. And they don't seem to understand that.
Yeah, no, I'd always, on the 490 aspect, I'd always thought our role was somewhat limited because the Board of Selectmen can't assess property. We can make suggestions, and encourage and whatnot. But the Board of Finance passed something also asking us to do something on the senior tax and the veterans, which I thought we
We have to
passed
do-
a resolution already. So I was just curious whether
We
there
have to
was some
change
other
the
action
ordinances.
we needed to take.
Ordinance.
So we're working with,
Have to change the
Right.
That still needs
ordinance,
to
and
happen.
that's what's in the process.
right. And we missed, if you remember, back when there was not time enough to get it in from the last application side. And frankly, Jason, I think the Board of Finance misunderstood what I was saying. What Mike said was, with what's going on with COVID and with what could happen with our taxes, whether we collect all our taxes, and the impact that we're having on some of the working people, on their incomes, what I said was, we should pause and think about this. In other words, I'm not saying not to do it, but all of a sudden the world changed. And I just think it's irresponsible for not to at least think about it. I didn't say not do it. I didn't say we shouldn't do it. I didn't say we're going to continue to move forward with that. But just, we need to think about what's happened. And we don't know what the final impact. I have people that you take somebody who is a hairdresser, instead of having 3 people in a chair and making X amount per person per hour, and now you can only have 1 or 2, their income is limit. I happen to know someone who, they had just bought a house, the husband had just come out of a technical school where they just got a job, and all of a sudden their mortgage is due, and all of a sudden there's an impact. I'm saying we should be careful and just think about it, and I think that's prudent to think about that and what it is. Not saying we shouldn't, I'm saying we should think about it. And they took that as, you're not gonna do it. That's not the case. It is a case of we should give thought to that. That's all.
So, Jason, I think to add to it, there was a whole plan we were progressing because, at one point, in looking through these, you realize that there's a lot of them that can be updated, and there's a lot of them that have revenue impacts, and, those need to be updated because they're so old, they're actually costing the town money, right? So, when finance also recognized those, we were working on it, we actually had a kind of backwards plan in place to get them done, said, for the referendum, that didn't happen, COVID happened, so, and I think you'd agree, if we have to do them, let's try to do a bunch, because it's a job, so let's do a bunch of them all at once and get it done, so that's what's working on. Jeff Tinley has an intern over there that we're working on.
Okay. No, I just took note of it, and that they passed their resolution. I know we talked about it, we spent a bunch of time on it last year, and I just wanted to make sure whatever it is we need to be doing on our level, and I recall the deadlines when we did it, there was a discussion about when the
Yeah.
applications were due and whether we can impact that year or whatnot.
And to your point, that happened that night. The next morning, I went down to talk to Mike, and Mike said, "Ooh, you got to change the ordinance." So that's what it was.
So, and again, I think, they heard pause, that wasn't stop, it was, we need to think about this. And I don't think that's unreasonable in this COVID. We need to think about this before we do this. And again, that's not to say we're not going to.
And I think we're going to do, let's do a whole bunch of them and get it done.
Okay.
Okay?
I was checking where we were, because I
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay,
All
Mr.
right.
Betty.
Chair Armino on Monday morning called an Economic Development Commission meeting for yesterday, and by the afternoon, she had called it off. Apparently, between those that are unavailable and unwilling, there was not a quorum. So they're going to try for next month. Obviously, Kevin continues to do a lot of different things with getting information out to people, including some good webcasts that have been going on multiple times per week. IPOC does not meet until the end of August. The Senior Commission has not met, but we all saw the Senior Administrator's report. They're working with Town Hall to target a September 1st opening, and we'll see if that's possible. And that's all I've got.
I caution that, as you know, there's a lot of theory of a rebound of COVID in the fall, so we need to be, hopefully, but
See what happens.
let's see what happens. Jason, please.
So I haven't had any formal meetings, but as Jeff mentioned, I've been involved in the EMD interview process the last couple of weeks, and that's now our work products now with Jeff, and he's going to continue some interviews. And as George mentioned, I was asked to provide some input and participate in some discussions on a draft document concerning Edgewood, and I was happy to do that. And that's it.
Selectman Harrison.
Library Committee hasn't met, but the EMS Committee met at the end of last month. They're working on approving work to approve the Volunteer Appreciation Program and are working on the EMS plan for the town. They have moved their meeting from what would normally be the fourth Thursday to July 28th. For anyone that's interested in attending, we will be meeting in person.
Okay, Mike?
Parks and Rec met on the 25th, and I was there. Camp, it was right before camp was opening on the 29th, following state guidelines with 10 campers only in a room. Michael gave a report. Pool opened 22nd of June. Reservations seems to be going pretty smoothly. I think swim lessons start next week, actually. Reservations online through the town website onto the rec desk page. Bathrooms at Valentine and Settlers were painted, floor to ceiling. Contractor is cleaning the ones at Settlers on the weekends. He's talking to Public Works to try to get them in there during the week. So at least they're getting more than one cleaning. Basketball hoops were put back up on all the parks that have hoops, and the new nets and rims were put on at Community House, actually. They were the last ones to get up because they came in a little late, but those are up. I've seen them being used pretty responsibly, it seems. So Michael said he's going to keep an eye on it, and if he thinks it's bad, well, to Jeff's point, if there's a rebound, we'll have to make a decision about what to do then. The one issue, River Road Park, leaps of faith, it came up in the meeting. Jim Tornatore, who's one of the, commissioners on Parks and Rec, was contacted by Leaps of Faith. They haven't gotten a new contract or a new permission from First Light. First Light, if you read in the paper, recently had an issue with another park. So they're really sort of in the holding pattern in terms of what they want to do. Jim was going to try to get a meeting with them to talk. And, he was going to try to reach out to First Light to see, if there's
Well,
anything they could do.
I think COVID held off a lot of their events, so that was nothing.
Right, but
my
now
understanding. But now they're hoping to open it up.
One of the things we talked about, is there anything that we can do simply to put in a word like we did back when we said we'd give the right of way? Could we at least make contact to First Light saying we'd be comfortable with it if they are, so. But Jim was gonna try to set up a meeting also with Leaps of Faith to discuss what their plans are even down the road, to continue trying to engage First Light again. We'll see where that goes. Jim also had an idea. The park members are going to be doing their annual check of the parks, so they could give reports to Public Works on any repairs that need to be done. They've done it every year since I was there. Jim Tornatore had a really interesting idea that the commission said it's worth pursuing, which he wants to do some type of showcase of talent outside. He's a drama teacher. He runs one of the local music theater programs. He'd love to hold like an outdoor showcase if the virus allows in Valentine Park or Settlers Park with some local talent, similar to how the Parks and Rec put together the chorus, the town choir before COVID hit. He'd love to figure out a way to do that. It was inspired by him doing his wife's personal music business. They did their vocal thing in their backyard, spread out. My daughter was one of the musicians. It was wonderful because we were all safely social distance. So he's talking to that, and Mike all said he talked to him about it. But that was it. And planning hasn't met since, and they actually canceled next week's meeting, so they won't meet again until September, and Region 15 doesn't meet over the summer, and we know about the opening now.
Planning canceled.
They canceled their last meeting of the summer, which is, I got a notice this week that it's not canceled on the website though, so we should note that, but I got a notice on Tuesday that the regular meeting of the Southbury Planning Commission for Tuesday, July 21, 2020 at 7 p.m. has been canceled.
They're still having a public hearing July 29th.
The public hearing one is a special meeting.
Yeah, that's one, yeah. But
They're scheduling, vacation scheduling.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
the website still has.
So they're scheduling that. You mentioned that they're doing the public hearing, that's still
Yeah.
happening?
Yep,
July 29th.
Yep.
that's it.
Okay. Any other business to come before the board?
I just had a question, and it goes back to the pedestrian study. I meant to mention it earlier. I saw it, I didn't have a chance to read the whole study, but I read that it's dedicated to Dolores. And you had mentioned at one of our meetings, a couple of meetings ago, about perhaps the town doing something official regarding streetscape.
Yeah.
And I was just curious.
So I would like to make a formal dedication of our streetscape in memory of Dolores Curtis, which would require a vote from the board. I'd like to, we need some time to get a whereas document together, but I also would like I thought it was appropriate that if we were to do this, is to notify the family and have them at the board meeting, if that was appropriate, right? You know, as you know, we've had limited members that could be here. And sometimes you throw, you never know when you throw the Stone Curtis family together. Some of our families, you ask if anybody wants to come to dinner, and you better set a table for pretty, it'd be like, asking the Bettys to come here, and, you're gonna overwhelm the room, and it may be the Bettys come, because they may be related, I'm not sure. So, it's logistics right now. I hope the board is still looking favorably on that. She did a tremendous service to this town during a time which was the biggest boom of real estate and shaping, and the commitment to continue to shape our town and our Main Street. I will share with you that I performed a wedding with someone who has a friend up here, who lives up here from New York City, and they literally, I said, well, why are they coming here? They live in New York City. They said they came here, they love Southbury, and they love Main Street, and they just can't believe how nice and calm and quiet it is here and how wonderful it is. So I think there was, Dolores had a big part of that. So Mike, you had a question?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and, I'm in favor of doing whatever we can, but beyond sort of a proclamation and, stating that we're honoring, if there's some type of permanent, way to honor her, whether that be a plaque at the beginning of, where you begin, since she helped begin it, and started something that's a little more permanent. I don't know if you've explored that, but I think that'd be nice.
I think we can.
To do something, whether it's,
Yeah.
I'm not saying name all of Main Street after, but something that's more permanent.
Yeah.
That those who come after us will be able to see it,
But I think, we can get that worked out. I said to someone, I was talking with somebody, and many of you came here, but I think for this side of this aisle tonight, how fortunate we were to have been born here, and what this vision of talent saw that's improved our lives and made it what our homes are today, that drew many others here, and improved our lives. I mean, and the vision that they had. So it means a lot to me that I was fortunate to be born here and have raised in a town like this. Meant a lot to me. So we'll do that. Once we get a little more freedom, we can actually have a few people here. We can have up to, according to COVID, 56. We get 50% of the room capacity, which is 112. So we can have up to 56 people. If we get more than 56 at something like that, we'll have to figure it out. Okay? Any other business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and thank you.